Welcome back. Friday morning, Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day to you as well.
You have a sweetheart?
I do. Love is in the air.
What's her name, please?
Her name is Ani. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
She's great.
You went out last night.
I did go out last night. We went to Pizzeria Portofino, right there on the river. It's a summer spot. That's what I've learned.
You like this. Is this a relatively new place that you won't shut up about the last year or so?
Dude, no chance.
You've brought it up a couple times.
I don't think so, because I haven't been in multiple years.
Oh, so it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's under RPM Seafood. It's good. It's a summer spot. That, we sat in the patio, so it's very close to the river. But because
it's on the river.
Yeah.
And RPM Seafood is on the ground level.
Correct.
But this place is on the river level. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
And so it's nice, but yeah, you have the little bubble or whatever, and it's not really clear. You can't really see out of it. So
you got the bubble.
No, you're in we were on the patio, what would be the patio, but obviously it's covered.
So you're outside
so cold.
So your table is in a bubble.
Yes, and so the bubble, the river doesn't look as pretty because it's a thick plastic that's covering it.
Gotcha.
Oh, and guess what? Heart-shaped pizza. Boom.
That's pretty classy. I'll give it to you. The pictures that you sent were pretty nice.
Okay, I want you to guess on this because it was nice. It was all great. Heart-shaped pizza. We love it.
Heart-shaped
I'm
pizza.
going to brag about it.
Fried calamari.
Fried calamari. Oh, sensational. That's
fried calamari, though, is, I hate to say it, tourist play. Grilled calamari trades over fried calamari every day of the week.
It's kind of like the good over good, great over great,
No, I don't know.
Good fried calamari better than good grilled calamari. Great grilled calamari.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, is the best.
All right, yeah.
But no, it's kind of
hear you.
We both enjoy calamari, so it's kind of we get it everywhere that we think it'll be good, and then you try and...
What were you going to ask? You were going to ask me something.
Pizza. Okay, heart-shaped pizza.
Yeah.
How much do you think one heart-shaped pizza was? We ate, just us two, all but 2 little slices.
Well, so this is the classic conundrum because you went pizza because it's cheap.
No, I didn't. Because it's heart-shaped. They can't do heart-shaped pasta.
I don't blame you, dude. I have a girlfriend of 2+ years, and we're not going anywhere this whole weekend. This whole weekend.
We'll see you on the other side.
That's why she's the best. But yeah, I mean, this whole thing is such BS. Oh, it's Valentine's Day. You gotta do this and you gotta go to a restaurant. I was talking to my brother last night and he was like, oh yeah, my friend Evan and his wife, they have 3 different reservations around Valentine's Day. And I'm like, that's
so much
miserable.
Yeah.
That's in San Francisco, that's going to be more than a G probably.
That's insane.
3 reservations. Heart-shaped pizza on Valentine's Day, so they put a premium on you. Let's say the pizza is normally $22. Heart-shaped, I'm going to go $35.
That's pretty good. Check this out. Pizza subtotal $51. Now,
it wasn't an extra large pizza.
It wasn't an extra large pizza.
It was a normal size pizza.
But it was our fault. You're right. The heart-shaped functionality, $5.
Wow.
Add $5.
Dude, so their regular pizza is $45?
Well, that's where I have to caveat it a little bit.
What are they putting on it?
So the pizzas, the menu is they're from $22 to $33. We got the truffle pizza, so it was $30.
So that doesn't count.
It was $33, and then we go to order it. I'm like, yeah, no, because I've had it, and it's this is really good. So we'll get the $33 pizza, and then we go to order it, and the waiter goes, would you like prosciutto on that? And she goes, yes. $13.
Dude, what is your deal?
My deal, it's fine, but
truffle?
It was really good. It was sensational.
God, you've got so much to learn.
Yeah, but
truffle and prosciutto on the pizza. At that point, just go to a nice restaurant and get a nice meal.
Restaurant.
I'm sure it's nice, yeah, but it's pizza. It is pizza.
It was good. Yeah, but yeah, seeing the 51 on the.
You want to know how much my pizza last night cost? Thank you, Taste It.
It couldn't have been as good as mine.
Prince Street Pizza in the office, reheated, even better than it was at lunchtime.
Did you at least crisp it, air fry it or oven it?
I put it in the oven.
Okay. It's better than my.
It's like, Kelly, here you go, babe. I brought you
You're such a provider.
a whole
That's great.
pizza from lunch today.
It's this new
was
place.
good.
Yeah, it was actually really
The
good.
4-cheese pizza with the ricotta cheese. Beautiful.
The truffle had ricotta on it too, and it was probably a little fresher. Whatever.
Well,
It's also
$55 for zero. You want to pay zero? You want to pay 55? What do you think Clink would pay?
he'd pay zero.
Yeah.
How do you pay zero? It's also my mother's birthday.
Wow.
Happy birthday, Mom. And historically,
Look at
that's
that.
usually how I get out of any of these, festivities or anything.
So did you do February 13th reservation because everything else is packed? Like you couldn't do any other day? Or it's because your mom's birthday is today?
Kind of. Mom's not in town, so
Okay, well,
yeah. But I did, because I was planning this, a week or two ago, had the open table notifications on. It just worked out because we went to, her friend was performing at Laugh Factory after, so we
Okay.
went there. Yeah, just whatever was. But it was funny because I had all these notifications on for open table, like 4 different places. And yesterday they just started opening up, like today, yesterday. Everybody's getting canceled on.
oh, dang.
Hate to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, tonight probably just make dinner together. And
Good for
then
you.
Taking her to a DJ set at Radius.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's my friend. It was my friend's birthday, so he said, "Can everybody go to this?" And it was hard to swing on Valentine's Day, but she's like, "I want to go. It's not my thing, but I'll go."
And so you're going to have new Drake album on during dinner making?
Yep, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then straight to Radius for the ecstasy and
For the
whatever
good
you guys
music.
are doing these
For the
days.
good music.
Nice. Okay. Well, good for you, man. We got plenty to go on here. I would tell you a story about my Valentine's Day, but we literally ate leftover pizza, watched an episode of Succession, and I went to sleep by 8:30.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
But yeah, this episode of Forex Focus, pretty exciting.
Why is that?
Well, we're always streaming on tastylive.com.
Okay.
Great place to watch. We're also streaming on Tasty Live YouTube channel.
First
where
time.
the chat is always popping off.
Test case.
And we're also streaming on the tastyfx YouTube channel.
Nice.
So tastyfx subscribers, tune in there.
So yeah, we'll hopefully be doing a lot more stuff on the tastyfx channel in the future and get not only Tasty Live, Tasty Trade, all the different communities, but the tastyfx community going. With that, let's get into the platform and talk about what the heck's been going on, because it's been some craziness.
Pretty good stuff.
Continued throughout the week, man. I thought last week when we did the whole bad Canada, good Canada, tariffs coming, tariffs not coming, I thought like, okay, well, that was a good week or so of action. The rest of February is going to be super boring now.
Right.
Not the case. So much back and forth. Tariffs giveth, tariffs taketh away for the U.S. dollar. And what's really interesting is it's been a hodgepodge of the different currencies. Like I said, last week it was Canadian dollar. Canadian dollar, great back and forth this week. I can throw it up really quick.
Yeah.
The 15-minute chart just to show
man.
you here some huge moves back and forth. And then at the end of the day, you see dollar weakness going into the weekend. But if you look at our major U.S. dollar pairs up here, the big moves the last couple of days were pound and euro. Pound and euro are up slightly here today. But euro's staring
that's
at
pretty good.
105 and pound's staring at 126, and owed to the last couple of days of upside in those markets. And now, just when you thought it was safe, is this Kiwi and Aussie coming out of nowhere?
We're back.
A nice bid here
That looks pretty good.
to close the week. I know Pete's been bemoaning this this Kiwi that's just not been moving off of these lows around 56 to 56.5, but the overnight session, end of yesterday and overnight session here into this morning, trading right near those highs above 57. Now, these are not historically high levels, but we're right there,
Yeah.
Glenn, at the highest prices for really the year, and wondering now if these commodity currencies might pick up a little bit. It's just interesting. The volatility flows from Canada to euro, pound, and I know there's Russia-Ukraine stuff going on as well as the tariff stuff going on. But now we're seeing it in the commodity space.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. It's a interesting timeline because you never know which is going to pop off.
No
But
clue.
yeah, I mean, good to see that New Zealand dollar because yeah, you compare it to the Australian dollar, and they of course move very similarly. But yeah, I mean, similar move, but we haven't seen as strong of moves to the upside in the New Zealand dollar.
Yeah, you're seeing this Aussie trade through its highs year to date. I know we're only in mid-February, but it's been a rough year to date for a number of currencies against the U.S. dollar. So nice to see this. But yeah, this Aussie piece now well above 63 cents. Still, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you take out the last 2 months of price action, 63 cents is actually like pretty much the low. But it'll be really interesting to see today if these markets can continue higher against the US dollar, or will this be the same story that we've seen? Because, like I say, if you widen out the lens, okay, 63 cents is very low. If you bring that lens in tighter, this is actually the high, and where US dollar has started to make its comeback against these currencies that have seen very short-term bids. So it'll be really interesting to watch these commodity currencies going into the weekend. One other piece I want to shout out, just because this piece has not been interesting at all the last several weeks, but now seeing great back and forth, is this Swiss franc, Glenn. Got all the way up to 91.5. And let's take a look at the daily chart just to make sure. Yeah, a couple of times this year tried to trade through 92, and just earlier this week was around its 91.5, kind of right around those highs for the last year or so of trading. And man, look at that move, a straight up annihilation of US dollar the last 3 trading sessions in a row, and now flirting with 90 cents even.
And this one, yeah, super interesting because we've seen it, the moves kind of in tandem with a lot of those Japanese yen. We, back and forth, we've seen kind of like a flight to quality, safe haven, and you can see that in the chart. But all of the tariff talks and everything bolstering the US dollar from a magnitude standpoint has really driven this up faster than those moves to the Swiss franc. I think it's splitting a lot of that safe haven demand with yen, gold, everything else.
And a great point that Marcel, one of our favorite viewers, called out to me earlier this week. She said, also keep in mind that this piece and that dollar yen piece are getting very muddled by the carry trade as well, because
Exactly.
you have every time you see a little bit of a breakdown here, because Pete and I were looking at this and we were like, man, this before these last 3 trading days, we were like, man, this is a lot of like just kind of nonsense. Especially, let's take a look at the dollar CAD daily chart just to show you for reference. Like you saw a lot of the nonsense here, sideways action, and then you saw finally like, okay, we're going to break out of this range, and now we're really breaking out of this range to the downside. And so you see these ranges sometimes coil, and you're like, okay, there's really nothing for me to do. Like in this dollar CAD between mid-December and mid-January was like, what do you want me to do? Should I buy it? Should I sell it? It's not really moving anywhere. Then you finally get the break out of this range, and now it's like, okay, I mean, I could trade both sides of this thing. Similar story here with this dollar Swissy, where it's like, man, it's just coiling up in this range of 90 cents to 92 cents. And even here, it's like, I'm not necessarily like jumping on the trend train that this is going to trade through the dollar lows like the rest of these currencies have been doing. Because the flip side of this is the carry on this dollar Swissy, I believe, is getting pretty interesting. So every time this dollar drops, a lot of people coming in to get long dollar at the expense of that Swiss franc, because the gap in interest rates between the U.S. and Switzerland has been kind of low-key widening out more than most of these other places. Whereas, I mean, here on the Aussie front, if you were to get short Aussie long dollar, it's really a push on either side. after the small admin fee. And then you look at the dollar yen piece, another one where it's like the interest rate gap between Japan and the U.S. is so wide that every time they try to knock down the U.S. dollar, a lot of people seem to be coming in to pick it up because this carry trade factor. So a lot of things to think about when you're trading this dollar Swiss franc that's just starting to get a little volatility in there.
And good call out with the carry trade, because when you think about what the carry trade strategy is, you're looking to get those positive carries overnight, but you can very easily be wiped out by a ton of price action, and that's been the story the fear in dollar yen, which we know can be so volatile for a number of reasons. Move on any Bank of Japan news, even a 25 basis point hike from them is big news, can really recalibrate this market. Whereas a Swiss franc, you're okay with a little less volatility.
It's been less volatile for sure.
And if you think that the interest rate differential is going to stay where it is, then maybe that is, in some people's mind, a better play.
A lot of dynamics to think about for sure, but really interesting that these markets continue to stay volatile, even though, like I said, I would have thought the tariff stuff would have calmed down a little bit, but you're seeing both sides of a lot of markets. But the trend going into the weekend, it seems, we'll see the last U.S. session here of the week will tell us if this trend continues or is reversed, is U.S. dollar weakness. And yeah, I mean, you look across the board, U.S. dollar challenging the year-to-date lows in Swiss franc, already through its lows.
Yeah.
Man, what a move in this Canada. You would have thought with the interest rate story and the employment story and everything going on in Canada, worst case scenario, the tariffs don't go through and we get back into this 142, 143, 144 range, blowing right through 142 to the downside. Last thing just to call out before we get to a nice little story for you all. U.S. retail sales coming at you in less than an hour. This number is expected to be wrapped around 0%, so maybe not so much going on there. But, I mean, in times where inflation isn't the number one thing, or interest rates isn't the number one thing, or tariffs now isn't the number one thing, retail sales is a top 2 or 3 number, right up there with non-farm and with the FOMC. So something to watch for. Probably not going to be the most interesting piece going into the weekend. Anything out of Trump or any central bankers or anything like that, probably.
Yeah, but you'll see it's always interesting to me when we're around that that zero handle, and you see, do people treat, we're expected to have some contraction. If that's a beat to just positive 0.1%, is that interpreted really strong versus further weakness? There's some psychological component there with expansionary versus contractionary.
We will watch for it, but let's get into an interesting little story for you all.
All right.
Is gold headed to $3,000 and what it could mean for the U.S. dollar?
Everybody's talking about it. Holy smokes.
Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's trading it.
The shiny serpent.
This gold
can't get a hold of that one.
Has been crazy, unrelenting upside that we've seen in gold. And this has been a story the last couple of years whereby in my trading history, up until the last couple of years, Glenn, gold would trade, down to 1,200 or 1,300. It would bounce back up to 1,500, 1,600, maybe challenge 1,600. It was a very mean reverting asset.
Right.
Similar to crude oil in a lot of ways. A lot of these commodities, they weren't necessarily highly correlated, and we're going to get into some correlations in just a second with U.S. dollar and gold, which will be cool. But you would just see mean reversion. And you didn't know when it was going to happen. You didn't know from what price, but you would see the back and forth. And what we've seen the last couple of years,
not much.
We're just looking at the chart for the last year or so of trading here for gold futures, is gets to a new price, hovers around there, and then gets to another new high, hovers around there, and then gets to another new high. And right now we're in the midst of a pretty unrelenting path towards 3,000. I mean, we're just, I think, like 10 handles off of 10 to 20 as of this show, off of 3K, all-time highs for gold. But that can't even be the story. It's like saying all-time highs for like S&Ps. It's
Exactly.
like it at this point happens like 50 days out of the year.
Right, and the trend you called out, if that were to hold up, we're not there yet. We haven't established a range. If you look at the end of that chart there, all the way to the right, we really haven't seen any pullback, just slightly before, continuing on. And you might think we're crazy for this $3,000 price target that we're looking at. Can it break it? But yeah, this is the time where now everyone has a new price target. I think Bank of America just came out, said 3,500, pulling out numbers, kind of like the Bitcoin stories we always hear, where people just, everyone wants to claim their own price target. But yeah, not a lot getting in the way of this gold recently. All the stories around it, a lot of things moving it, making a lot of bull cases for it. But then again, you have everyone that's saying, how much can this run? A lot of premium baked in from the actual exchanging of physical gold from wherever, London to here, U.S. gold trading at a premium. If you think that is too inflated, there's your contrarian case, but I haven't seen it yet. So
absolutely hard to make a contrarian case here because you have plenty of contrarian ideas circling this market, such as U.S. rates and U.S. dollar, both, coming off a little bit here going into the weekend and in the back half of this week here in mid-Feb, but still really strong. Like U.S. rates sustained at 4.5%.
And keeps pushing out. So
and they keep pushing out the potential cuts that you think might lift gold. So that's not doing anything against this gold market. Historically, you think a strong U.S. dollar, which again, even though it's off its highs, it is historically one of the strongest U.S. dollar markets we've seen in decades. That's not making gold any cheaper. And it's one of those things. I'm glad you brought up Bitcoin because it's like a lot of people will go out there and every time gold makes a new high or it comes off of its high, they'll come out with a story of like, oh, well, that's because inflation.
Right.
And it's like, okay, it's an anti-inflation kind of thing where maybe it catches a bid when inflation is high, but it also gets hit when interest rates move high because theoretically people would move their money from gold, a safe haven non-interest bearing asset, to bonds,
exactly.
Safe haven interest-bearing asset, still at 4% plus interest rates. And so this is one of those things, can it get to 3K? It could get to 3K today or early next week. What is the reason behind a lot of this? Honestly, it's one of those things that we probably won't know until after the fact. It's one of those things that like everybody likes to make up the story after the Super Bowl, for example, of like, well, of course the Eagles won because they have the best defense and the defense wins. And it's like, well, leading up to that move, leading up to that game, it's like you could make 50 different stories. And so right now we are kind of in the midst of gold moving higher. Hard to wrap any story around it. Recently, it's everything that you see online is like, oh, well, the unknowns around tariffs. That's why everybody's flocking to gold. And it's like, well, tariffs wasn't a thing in July of 2024, and so we've been flocking to gold for years at this point. But I do want to put some math behind it because we can at very least do that. Gold historically, Glenn, negative correlation to U.S. dollar because we look at gold priced in dollars, and so theoretically, a more expensive dollar could mean a cheaper gold market. No correlation across the board here, man.
No, that is bleak. Can't really look to any of these major pairs as any sort of proxy. You get the historic anecdotal correlation with Australian dollar and those precious metals. You're not seeing it there. Maybe you think it's tied to these safe haven, flight to qualities. You're looking at the Swiss franc. You're looking at the Japanese yen. It's not really there.
Yeah.
And so these two, while attached to a lot of the same stories, moving at their own timings. And we're seeing both of them strong right now, but not really on the same days, or you can't attribute it to
100%. One of the only correlations that you can really see here is the slight negative 0.11 for dollar versus yen correlated to gold. And so you do see a little bit of that inverse correlation for dollar and gold in that pair. But to your point, Glenn, it's kind of like they just maybe don't go up on the same day, because you look at the dollar yen chart in the same time frame, looking at the last year or so of trading, and this dollar is up over 7% in the same time that gold's up a bunch more percent. It's more volatile asset, but they're both trending in the same direction in the same time. Now, what is interesting though is, and here we look at this dollar CAD chart again, a dollar market moving up and to the right in the same time that gold is moving up and to the right. At least this US dollar is a little bit of a two-way street right now. You're seeing both sides of this US dollar trade, Glenn, whereas in gold, you're not seeing both sides. You're not seeing the correlation there. So it's hard to make a story of, okay, well, I'm going to, short gold and short dollars as a hedge. Not really a strategy that's been working out given those correlations. But if you are looking for something that is more two-sided than a gold trade here, the US dollar is at least giving you that two-way street, so to speak.
And, getting more granular. You could, if you think the dollar's strong against an Asian currency like the yen long term, then you can take that position. But yeah, you're getting good two-way action off this tariff talk as it relates to Canadian dollar. So it can get a lot more granular than just gold has to come down.
Yeah. Whereas tariffs, interest rates, inflation, and anything seems like it's a bid for gold at this point. We'll see where it reverses. Maybe it is 3K. Maybe the next price is 3,100, or what you said, Bank of America 3,500. We will stay locked in on the correlations between gold and Forex in the future. But that'll do it for today's episode of Forex Focus. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Myself and Glenn will be back next week for more with our good friend Peter. But stay tuned for Tom, Tony, and Vanetta coming up next.
Now, don't screw up. You're the weakest link here.
You guys introduce yourselves.
I'm Tony Batista. He's Tom Sosnoff. You didn't know that? I don't have any idea why you're watching.
I'm Tony Batista. He's Tom Sosnoff.
41, you got it!
See that? We knew it. Pretty good. Baseball field.
Baseball game.
It was a wonderful evening.
It was a warm summer day, 1980.